According to the Washington Post reporting tonight, Rudy Giuliani said he was operating in his personal capacity as Trump's lawyer, although he said the State Department helped put him in touch with Yermak. Andrei Yermak is an aide to Ukrainian President Zelensky. The Wall Street Journal reports Giuliani said his meetings with Mr. Yermak was set up by the State Department and said he briefed the department on their conversation later. The State Department had no immediate comment. This raises the question, what did Secretary of State know about Rudy Giuliani's Ukrainian negotiations, and when did he know it? Joining us now is Ambassador Wendy Sherman, a former Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs during the Obama administration. She's also an MSNBC Global Affairs contributor. And Ambassador Sherman, what should the Secretary of State have known and done about what Rudy Giuliani was up to?
If Rudy Giuliani was going to Ukraine and meeting in other countries with aides to the head of Ukraine, the State Department, as the president's political lawyer, the State Department really should have had nothing to do with it. To put senior Foreign Service officers, to put ambassadors, to put working people, civil servants, in the crosshairs of a political controversy is completely inappropriate. What we're seeing here is Giuliani acting as the president's setup guy. I think his interview last night on another network was really to get the story out there that this was all about going after investigating Joe Biden, when in fact Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post has long said that the facts do not support that there is any wrongdoing here whatsoever. It's been cleared by the Ukrainians regarding Vice President Biden's son. There's no there. And yet to keep Trump's group supporting him and trying to ensure his reelection, in part so he can ensure that he will not be indicted, he will not be taken to court. Rudy Giuliani it's almost like a mob family, Lawrence, where you've got the guy who goes in and says, now, you really don't want the Godfather or the big guns to come in here. You want to make sure you do the right thing here. So there doesn't have to be even an explicit comment. It can be understood, as your earlier guest said, there may never have been an explicit quid pro quo here by Giuliani or anyone else, but it's all well understood. We all know how to have such conversations, but they don't belong in the purview of the State Department. And Giuliani is really, along with the president, debasing themselves when it comes to protecting our national security.
Does Rudy Giuliani have criminal liability here in what he has just outlined for reporters already, that he's dealing with Ukraine on behalf of Donald Trump on a personal basis, not on a governing basis, right, trying to get Ukraine to basically cause problems for Joe Biden's family?
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know whether there's criminal liability here, but it's certainly inappropriate. And it is certainly not anything that when I was at the State Department, I would have allowed anybody to be involved with. It would be completely inappropriate. What we all should be focused on here is that we protect whistleblowers because they're a critical part of our system of checks and balances, that we protect our national security. And this appears to be an abuse of power by the President of the United States, by an attorney general who believes in the expansion of presidential powers, by a former mayor who was once thought of as America's mayor, who is now just, I guess, having a ball, doing very screwy kinds of things on behalf of the president. And we have a president who serves his own personal interests every day and not the interests of our country. We're at a really tough place. And Lawrence, when I was discussing this with my husband this evening, he said to me something that was very true. The president expects that we will all be exhausted by all of this and we will turn away. But for the sake of our democracy, I say we cannot turn away. We have to stay with this story. It's really about the survival of our national security and the survival of the values of our country and our Constitution.
Ambassador Sherman, could you please stay with us? I want to stay with exactly that when we come back after a break. We'll be right back. And we're back with former Undersecretary of State Wendy Sherman. And Ambassador Sherman, I just want to read you some of Nancy Pelosi's statement today. She issued a statement saying that we will continue to follow the facts and explore every possible option, ensure the American people get the truth. And she said, "We must be sure that the president and his administration are conducting our national security and foreign policy in the best interest of the American people, not the president's personal interest." And when you see those words today, they seem to have been written for another era, the Trump era. The idea of the Trump presidency serving anything other than the president's personal interest seems like just a kind of accidental byproduct of what the Trump presidency can feel to some people to be like. And I'm wondering, when I look at the statute, the whistleblower statute, it looks like one of those things written by honorable members of Congress who presumed that everyone dealing with that statute or living under that statute would also be behaving in an honorable way. And if you were trying to write that statute for a criminal administration or an administration that will violate laws willfully, you'd have to write a very different statute. And it seems like everything that surrounds this issue, it turns out to be weaker than we thought it was, because the Trump approach to this has no concern whatsoever, no concern at all for how the manipulation of these processes looks publicly.
Indeed, the president has no respect for the institutions of our government. He works every day in so many ways to undermine those institutions, everything from making sure everybody is enacting this or enacting that so there isn't sufficient oversight from the Congress, so that he keeps them all on their toes, having to please the king in many ways, to the use of the military of his one of his resorts in Europe, because the military's not a fool. They know they want to stay in good stead with the president. So there is no explicit statement by the president that the military has to go use Turnbull. There is no explicit statement about how the president is going to govern, though he does say he likes actings because he keeps them off balance. He gets to decide. So everything he does, starting with undermining the intelligence committees and the intelligence institutions, of saying that, in fact, Russia, not some 400-pound guy, not some other country, but Russia was behind the interference of the election in 2016 that wanted to help Donald Trump at every level, in every way. He has said, I don't care. I'm going to take care of myself. And he's very good at branding. He's very good at marketing. He's very good at getting his rally crowds to agree with him in their own sense of being left out and left behind, that he is for them. And the real danger here is when people feel uncertainty, they go for leaders who tell them, I will take care of everything, I will be your king, I will take care of you. And that's exactly why the United States of America was founded, not to have a king.
Ambassador Wendy Sherman, thank you very much for joining us on another important news night. We really appreciate it. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.